I'm Lamari Navarrete de Bedford, for people who don't know who I am, editor at LPAC TV. And I have a question on the rising tensions with the soon-to-be deployed Patriot missiles on the border of Syria and Turkey. At the beginning of this week, the chief of the Iranian armed forces said in regard to these missile systems that each one of these Patriots is a black mark on the world map and is meant to cause a world war. This is very dangerous for the future of humanity. Also following upon those statements were the remarks of Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Rogozin, who spoke on the potential threat of mobile naval-based elements of the U.S. missile defense system, saying that if they were suddenly to appear on Russia's coastline along the Black Sea, it would trigger the harshest reaction from Russia, and also a new arms race between the U.S. and Russia. The next day, December 18th, Secretary of the Security Council of Russia, Patrushev, expressed in an interview the understanding of Russians that the atomic weapons of leading Western countries are aimed mainly against Russia. And given that fact, he expressed that the strength of Russia's conventional armed forces is insufficient, and that the preservation of Russia's nuclear potential is priority. Now, these two Russian officials may not have mentioned the word Turkey or Patriot missiles in their remarks, but the situation is very clear. The military buildup near Russia's borders constitutes a threat. In fact, the Iranian military chief pointed out that any experienced military man would be able to predict the scenario in which the fire breaks out, so to speak, after which point nothing could be done to extinguish the inferno. In this context, over the past week, there was also a high-ranking U.S. officer who spoke in Washington, D.C., in front of a public audience. And he expressed the need for cooperation between President Putin of Russia, who he said would be essential to assisting the United States in a solution both to the crisis with the Iranians and also with the crisis in Syria in a way that would be peaceful. He stressed that a mutually supporting system had to be set up. He expressed that today the Russians see weapons deployed near their borders. Their only response under the present configuration is to heavily invest in their strategic forces. Now, given the policy of the Obama administration of supporting al-Qaeda networks, both in the way that the Gaddafi regime was overthrown and also in the way that the rebels in Syria are being supported, the policy under the United States under our current president is clearly not for building a mutually supporting system with the nations of Eurasia. The current policy fans the flames of war. Given that this is the case, what does the Congress need to do immediately in the days ahead, given that they're still going to be in session likely between Christmas and the New Year?
Okay. Well, the basic thing, the trigger is going to be the economic trigger, because nothing is going to work unless it has the economic trigger in it. There's no way it'll work, which means that what is happening is you get some of the Republican spokesmen in these hearings that are coming into these hearings now, that if they stick to their guns, they are going to, first of all, come to the military question and the security question, because that's the hot box that you start with. Because if you say that the president is a criminal, that opens the gates for a broader discussion. And he is a criminal. He's a criminal in more than one way. So therefore, if we have a leadership in the United States, which may be, as I've said before, which may be a minority leadership, but it's the people who are the natural leaders of our nation. In other words, the idea that the average citizen is the person who makes these decisions, that's not true. We haven't developed the citizenship which is capable of responding to that. They have no knowledge of what economy is. Really, no knowledge. They know practical things that they can do. But they don't have any understanding of how this system works. They don't understand how the world economic system works. They're given a lot of pablum, a lot of junk, a lot of silly conversation, which isn't worth anything. It's incompetent. They don't know what a credit system is. Probably you can run the streets and 90% of the people in the United States will have no idea what the hell a credit system is. And if you don't know what a credit system is, then you can't use it. And if you can't use it, you can't save this nation. And Glass-Steagall is the first step. It's only the first step. But the thing that's going to do it is the fact that the President of the United States is a stinker. And the fact that it makes him a stinker, he's telling us we've got to fight these wars against Al-Qaeda. He's saying that he won the war against Al-Qaeda by killing... And now he comes in and says, I'm your leader. And people say, you're on the wrong side. You're on the enemy side. You were the one who brought Al-Qaeda in to Libya. You are the ones who brought the war into Syria with Al-Qaeda. You and the Saudis, and the British monarchy are the authors of this hell. You want us to trace you when you were responsible for the killing of people en masse in New York City in the original 9/11? And now we have another 9/11, and specifically 9/11. 9/11 by Al-Qaeda. 9/11 back in 2001, Al-Qaeda. Today, Al-Qaeda. In Syria, Al-Qaeda. Now, this guy can, our current president, could probably get some consideration the fact that he's insane. And as I said back in 2008, when I presented the diagnosis of this man's mental life, I said he's insane. He's a Nero. He is a Nero. He's a virtual copy of the Emperor Nero. All the characteristics. And he's now in a sort of a political death throes. He's entered. Just like Nero, who went into political death throes and then committed suicide after sodomizing and then raping his mother, which is not recommended as a good, high-quality personality. And Obama has much of that same kind of streak, that kind of characteristic. So what is going to move this thing is going to be the fact that the American people are beginning to hate Obama for what he is. They're going to catch on and then see that this is not the bright star that's leading them to glory. This is the guy who's going to starve them to death, kill them in proceedings like in the Liverpool program of Britain, which is the same thing as the Adolf Hitler program, the initial stage of the Adolf Hitler program of mass murder in Germany. So this is the way it'll work. It'll work because a moral factor, and people can understand a moral factor quicker than they can understand an economic factor. And when a people sense that there is a moral issue, that they are being betrayed by immoral people who are beasts, and if they have any courage, they'll react on that basis. But the thing is, they first must see a possible correlation, even a desperate one, with the two issues. They've got to see a correlation between the evil, which is now manifest clearly by anybody who's paying attention to what Obama's been doing. Here's the President of the United States who went to war in violation of the Constitution, who is a cohort of Al-Qaeda, which was an original 9/11. And he's also a 9/11er, in Syria. And look at all the people who've got funny state material on their face from what they've been involved in support of Obama's program, the Al-Qaeda program. That's the way it will go. It will go in history. I mean, the most people in history, because of the Roman Empire and things like the siege of Troy, that people react to the kinds of issues that ignorant people can respond to. How can they get passionate about something if it's not within what they think is their comprehension? And the typical American has no sense whatsoever of how a national economy or world economy works. So they cannot really react to that. What they'll react is to react to the moral issue. They found out they've been betrayed, and they have leaders among them, as in the American Revolution, leaders among them who understand the issues well enough to lead people in acting to deal with it. That's the way it'll work.